Argue at the funeral. People remember that part. They remember my mother, in law, standing in black silk, spine straight, telling anyone who would listen that she would protect her son's legacy. They remember her saying she would take the house, the firm, all of it, everything except my daughter, as if my child were a sentimental object she was generously leaving behind. Remember my attorney pulling me aside 2 days later, whispering urgently that I could fight. That I should fight. I was entitled to half, maybe more. What they don't remember is that I asked him only one question. She takes controlling ownership. I said, who carries the firm's expansion debt? He blinked. Then he opened his folder. The firm had expanded aggressively the year before my husband died. New offices, new hires, a glossy rebrand no one needed. Had told him it was too fast. He said risk was vision in motion. The bank disagreed. Quietly, on paper, there was a 7-figure loan secured against the firm, personally guaranteed by the majority shareholder. At the time, had been my husband. And there was a clause, dry, forgettable, transferred the personal guarantee to any new majority owner upon change of control. I remember staring at that clause months ago. When we signed the restructuring documents, I'd asked about it. He waved it off. It's standard, he said. You worry too much. I do. At home, my mother-in-law called daily, not to ask how I was sleeping, not to ask how her granddaughter was coping. She asked about account access, about board meetings, about keys. When I told her I wouldn't contest anything, there was a pause. Relief, almost warmth. That's wise, she said. You're not built for business. Let me handle what he built. I didn't correct her. The signing, the room was professionally cold. 2 attorneys, a notary, a stack of documents arranged in neat columns. She wore ivory instead of black, a subtle declaration that mourning had ended and management had begun. Attorney looked at me one last time before we started. He still thought I was making a mistake, thought grief had hollowed out my judgment. Maybe it had hollowed something out. Just not judgment. Papers moved clockwise around the table. Asset transfer, property deeds, share certificates. I signed each page steadily. No hesitation, no theatrics. She smiled as she signed. It was the smile of someone who believed patience had rewarded her. The house would be hers. The firm would be hers. The narrative would be hers. The competent matriarch rescuing her son's life's work from his fragile widow. When the final document was notarized, her attorney cleared his throat. There is one additional disclosure to formally acknowledge, he said almost casually, slid a single-page summary across the table. Outstanding commercial loan balance $428,400. Personal guarantee, majority shareholder. Effective immediately upon transfer. He didn't dramatize it. He didn't soften it either. Simply pointed to the clause and read it aloud, as procedure requires. In that moment the room shifted, not loudly. Just enough. Her smile didn't collapse. It stalled. I assume, she said carefully, this remains a corporate obligation. Is, the attorney replied, with personal guarantee attached to the controlling owner. Silence followed. Dense, mistakable silence. For the first time since the funeral, she looked at me directly, not over me, not through me. You knew, she said, held her gaze. I read what I sign. There was no accusation in my tone, no triumph, just fact. She turned back to her lawyer, who was already flipping pages, already recalculating. The firm's revenue projections had been optimistic. The expansion hadn't stabilized. Cash flow was thin. Control, I've learned, is expensive. We finished the meeting because professionals do. Papers were filed. Hands were shaken. Outside, Attorney exhaled like he'd been underwater. "You're free," he said quietly. "Not wealthy, not vindicated. Free. I kept my daughter. Kept my small savings account. I kept the modest apartment I had purchased years ago before I married into ambition. Not keep the house with its echoing ceilings. I did not keep the firm that had once felt like a shared dream." In the weeks that followed, my mother-in-law called once. Her tone was different, not softer, just careful. "May need to discuss restructuring," she said. "I'm no longer an owner," I reminded her. Another pause. "Doesn't always roar when it changes hands. Sometimes it's a line in a contract. Sometimes it's the discipline to let someone underestimate you." At night, I still question myself. There are employees at that firm, families attached to those paychecks. The debt is real. The consequences will ripple. This wasn't revenge. It was arithmetic, built something brilliant and fragile at the same time. She wanted the brilliance. I declined the fragility. When people ask now why I didn't fight for what was mine, I tell them the truth. I did, just not in the way they expected.